morning, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to our Stanley Cup Finals preview from the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm David Eversole, of course, joined by our Panthers lead, Alex Baumgartner. From the fifth line, we're going to give you an in-depth preview today of the Florida Panthers matchup with Vegas. The games start tomorrow, game one in Vegas. Alex is actually there, so he's going to have tons of insight from the arenas, from the conferences. So follow us for the latest on this series. So before we get to the matchup, let's mention one of our great sponsors here at the network, of course, Prize Picks Daily Fantasy. A lot going on, obviously, with the Heat in the NBA Finals right across town from the Panthers, and with the NHL Stanley Cup Finals kicking off. Plenty of things to get in the action with Prize Picks, so make sure you sign up and use promo code FIVE. You get a full deposit match up to $100. So I know we've been busy throughout the network between the Heat and Panthers. So, what a great time in Miami sports, obviously. So we're excited to spend this morning going over the matchup with Vegas. So, Alex, thanks for joining me today. And I know you're getting ready to fly out later. So want to jump into the keys, first of all, with the Panthers, obviously. Kind of a parallel to the Heat series, but the opposite scenario with Denver being the team that's rested. The Panthers go into game one being the team with more rest, but obviously on the road. So give us a little of your perspective in terms of how the extra time may help the Panthers in this first game.
Well, I'll get into how they help and then how it can affect them. So how they help, they're going to get a lot of much needed rest to heal injuries. During the playoffs every year, guys that you didn't know were hurt end up being hurt after the series, after the playoffs over. And then guys that you know are hurt might be able to come back in. So Nick Cousins did skate yesterday. Wednesday. The Panthers didn't skate yesterday. They flew out to Vegas yesterday. So the Panthers had Nick Cousins skate on Wednesday. Eetu Luostarinen hasn't skated since game 4 where he got hurt. Now, Paul Maurice said a couple days ago he expects him to be there for game 1, but he hasn't skated yet. So that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to see. But the extra rest will help the guys kind of heal up a little bit. Anyone that had a couple of nicks and bruises, it's going to help them. With that 10 days off, it's going to help them. Now, where it's not going to help them is teams don't often do great with this much time of rest during the playoffs. Now, for the Stanley Cup final, I think it might be a little bit different because they've been going so long. If it was like a second round to third round matchup, I would say maybe it's a little bit different, or a first round to second round matchup, just because you're just starting to get into the flow of things. So that might be something they're going to have to look out for. I think Vegas will come out stronger in game 1 than the Panthers. Now, this isn't something we haven't seen. Opponents the Panthers have faced have usually come out a lot stronger than them in the opening 10 minutes of a lot of these games, minus game 4 against Carolina. But that Carolina series, Carolina really brought the storm to the Panthers in the opening couple minutes. I thought it was the same situation in Toronto. The Panthers are very good at locking it down. So if they can weather the storm early enough and then get their legs back into the game. I mean, Paul Maurice even said it. He kind of expects Vegas to come out with more legs than the Panthers, just because they've been in game action and the Panthers haven't. And he said, we're just going to have to get back at it, weather the storm, stuff like that. So that's one thing I'm going to be a little worrisome about when you have 10 days between games. Can you get back to game speed quick enough? And I think this series specifically, getting the split is going to be more important than any series they've played because of the amount of rest they've had, the stakes it's at. It's the Stanley Cup final. You need the split, at least the split on the road.
Right. And that atmosphere in Vegas is one of the best home arenas since day one, obviously, when the first year success that the team had. Yeah. And that place is packed over capacity every game. They have a real, lively home crowd. It's a great organization in terms of putting a quality team on the ice. You just look at their success already as such a young franchise. But I wanted to talk about a little bit the goalie matchup, first of all. I think the rest may be a double-edged sword for Bobrovsky because he was so sharp. I'm curious, like you said early on, how he responds, seeing a few things coming at him. So let's break down the goalie matchup. Obviously, we've had two different situations with Vegas. They kind of transitioned to Adin Hill and sort of ended up with him. So Let's start with Vegas. Tell us how we got here in terms of Aiden Hill and how he's contributed for them in the playoffs. And then let's look at Bobrovsky and what he's going to be able to do.
Yeah, so the Golden Knights goaltending situation has been extremely interesting all season. Their all-star Logan Thompson didn't play in the playoffs. He got hurt in the regular season. He made the all-star team. They go Laurent Brossoit, who played really good in the playoffs. And then I forgot which round it was. I think it was against Edmonton. It's either Edmonton or maybe in the Edmonton or the Winnipeg series. Brossoit got hurt and Aiden Hill came in. And then with Aiden Hill coming in, well, he's been spectacular. I'm looking at the goalie stats right now. 1, 2, 3 is Bobrovsky, Ottinger, who Aiden Hill's Knights just beat, and then Aiden Hill number 3. So he's only played 11 games in this playoffs, but out of the 9 games he started, you got 7 wins, 3 losses, 11 games played. I don't know where that other game is, but he's been spectacular. And then Laurent Brossoit, who played 8 games, is still number 5 in the goalie stats for the Knights. So their goaltending has been very good this postseason. And obviously with Sergei Bobrovsky, he's been the best goalie in the playoffs. 13 games started, 11 wins, 2 losses, including 1 shutout. I mean, he's been spectacular. This is going to be a very interesting series for goaltending because I think whoever has the hotter goalie is going to steal a game or two. This is going to be a very tightly contested series just off of the way these two teams played, where they roll all 4 lines. They don't rely too much off the rush to score, which is going to be very interesting because that's kind of how the Panthers have been playing in the playoffs, where they're getting a lot of action down below the goal line or just in the offensive zone and creating chances while already maintaining possession. Vegas is going to do the same thing. So I think if you have the hotter goalie, you'll be able to steal at least a game. And I think this series might go down to the wire, and whoever steals that 1 extra game is going to win the cup.
Now let's talk about Vegas a little bit stylistically, obviously, on offense. I know they're a team that seems to be better 5-on-5. They're not particularly good on the power play. But what are some of the keys for Bobrovsky in terms of just dealing with Vegas? Like you said, they come at you with multiple different lines. I think obviously Marchessault is kind of the one who's been stirring the offensive drink lately. But they're a dangerous team on their top 6. But I don't think they quite have a lot of maybe the speed guys that some of the other teams, like maybe a Dallas, would have presented. So what do you think stylistically Vegas is going to look to do against the Panthers, and how do they counter on the defensive side in front of Bobrovsky?
I think they're just going to have to try and get as many pucks in traffic in front of him. Bob's been seeing it. He's been stopping it most of this playoff. So I think the task at hand for Vegas is to really crowd the front of the net, just get bodies in front of Bob, make sure he doesn't see the puck, get around the Panthers defense that has done a pretty good job at clearing away rebounds and clearing away pucks after Bob made the initial save after the Boston series. The first 4 to 5 games of that Bruins series in the first round, the Panthers could not clear the puck to save their life. Then they were able to clean up the rebounds in front of the net. They ended up winning that series, and after that, they were lights out in front of Bob in terms of just getting the traffic away from him. Bob will make the first save. He might make the second save, and well, this playoff, we've been seeing him make the 3rd and 4th, but you got to clear the puck. So if Vegas can beat the Panthers defensemen who have been pretty good so far in this playoff, so just clearing up the mess in front of the net, then they'll be able to get some by Bob. And I think just getting a couple by him early in the series really will help them out. So getting traffic in front of the net and just getting bodies to kind of clear out the Panthers and beating the loose pucks is going to be extremely important, because I don't think there's going to be too many rush chances for either team this series just off of how they play. And Vegas has a really good defense too, so I think Florida's going to have to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's a good transition, obviously, because I want to talk about the Vegas defense in terms of just they don't really let you get a lot of speed 5-on-5. But one place where you can attack Vegas is on the power play. They've drawn a lot of penalties. I think they have the most. Obviously, they played more than most games, but they've drawn 250 penalty minutes in the playoffs. And I think one advantage that Florida is going to have is on the special teams. So in terms of getting out of the zone, like you said, I think what's going to also be important for the Panthers is winning on the boards, on the half wall, getting the puck out with some speed to the neutral zone. Because you saw when they had success in the earlier rounds with Duclair getting those passes around the blue line through the center of the ice. Florida's going to have to get behind their forwards and be able to push their defense on their heels a little bit, because I think 5-on-5 is where Vegas lives. So Florida's going to have to put them in some situations where they're maybe going to draw some more penalties, and that's going to open up the ice a little bit for the Florida offense, because I think it's going to be a pretty even series. Even though the Panthers swept Carolina, every one of those was a 1-goal game. So Florida's been in tight games throughout these playoffs. So what do you think overall are the keys to the series for both teams? Let's start with the Panthers. What do you think is the number one key for the Panthers to win this series?
They're going to have to lock it down defensively. As you just mentioned, Vegas 5-on-5, their 5-on-5 goals in 17 games is 49 in the playoffs, which is 12 more than Dallas, and that's 18 more than Florida. And Florida's top 5 in the playoffs for 5-on-5 goals. Vegas is a very good 5-on-5 team. But then when we start getting into the power play, well, Vegas isn't that great on the power play. Penalty kill, one of the worst statistical numbers.
63% in the playoffs.
And at home, it's 54, which is even worse. So, like, if you get a power play against Vegas at home, you're probably scoring if you get more than one. That's just how it's been this postseason. So the Panthers are going to have to win the special teams battle, because I think Vegas, the way they've been playing this playoff, 5-on-5, that's kind of how they're going to want to play. And now I think Florida's probably the toughest defensive team Vegas is going to have to see just through the lineup. I don't think it's going to be the same 5-on-5 inflated stats that we've seen this postseason. I mean, that Edmonton series in its own was just a goal fest everywhere. But you have to win your special teams battle. You have to take advantage of their I won't even say subpar. They haven't been great on the penalty kill. You have to take advantage of that. They haven't been spectacular on the power play either. 5-on-5 is where they're at. And they're going to draw penalties. The Panthers, they're going to have some legs going in this series, and they're good at drawing penalties, and they're going to have to be physical. They're going to have to take advantage of the special teams play, because Vegas 5-on-5 is going to get their chances, and they are going to score a good amount of goals.
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be contributions from the blue line in terms of offense. So I think Montour's, since a real hot early start, he's kind of cooled off in terms of just shot production. I mean, Aaron Ekblad's basically just disappeared in terms of offense anymore. He used to be one of those guys you could always count on to get some pucks to the net. So for me, I think it's just creating speed and creating chances from multiple lines. You're going to need guys like Duclair. You're going to need guys like Lomberg, who I think is going to be ramped up. He's going to be rested now, back to game action after a long time off due to injury. So I'm looking for a couple of those role guys, and that'll put us to our next segment, is our players to watch outside of the main guys. So I'll start with you with the Panthers. So who's your number one player to watch, like, say, maybe even outside of the top 6 forwards?
Well, I'm not going to say the obvious answer, which is Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm going to say it's Anton Lundell. It's your third line center who's been spectacular in this postseason. I'm saying spectacular because if you look at the way he plays defensively and the way he can really drive the offense, now he's a different player. And I've talked to Lundell a couple times about this postseason, just about his confidence in the game, and he seems a lot more. He doesn't say he's a lot more confident, but he seems a lot more confident on the puck. The 21-year-old forward, he kills penalties. He's on that second power play unit. He drives that very important third line. That whole third line might be the players to watch. Just the way they bang down low. Sam Reinhart's been really good with that line. Eetu Luostarinen, when he's healthy, he's been really good with that line. They work really well down low, but I'm going Anton Lundell. He's going to be very important because the Barkov line's probably going to match the Stone line. You're going to have people looking for Eichel. I'm looking for Anton Lundell.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lundell's going to be one of those guys that might sneak into the mix there. I like Forsling. I love how steady Forsling's been throughout the whole series. He just kind of does all those little things under the radar that help you win. But my guy to watch is Sam Bennett. I didn't realize that this guy was such a bruiser. Like he is out there just, and sometimes it's to his detriment because he's been taking a lot of penalties in the playoffs. So for me, Sam Bennett's the key to me for a variety of reasons. First of all, his skill and physicality, just winning those battles, kind of sending a message, knocking someone on their ass, early in the series, I think is setting the tone because Florida's going to have to be physical. And, with somebody like Barkov, they're going to be good two-way. So for me, I think Bennett is going to be a key on the forecheck with his physicality and just staying out of the box. He's got to stay out of the box, like you said, and not give Vegas any free chances. So I'm looking for a good energy and Bennett to kind of lead that second line. So, for me, he's going to be my player to watch outside of the obvious guys.
All right, quickly before we move into our next segment, I'm going to say for Vegas, it's going to be Jack Eichel. Didn't score a goal in the last series, but he's been amazing just carrying the play. He's very dangerous when he gets going. First playoffs, he's in the Stanley Cup Final. Sam Reinhart's old teammate in Buffalo, the former first overall pick and the former second overall pick, meeting once again the two friends in the Stanley Cup Final. So before we move into our next segment, we're going to talk about our newest sponsor here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. It is Keystone Neuro and Plasticity from Dr. Jonathan Chung. They are based out in Wellington. So big Miami sports fan, big Heat, big Panthers. If you're looking for a chiropractor in the Wellington area, Dr. Jonathan Chung, you can find him at chiropractickeystone.com.
A long-time supporter of the network. So glad to have him with us. And, it's going to be an exciting series. I think these two teams match up really, really well. So I'm going to leave the predictions first to you, and then I'll jump in with mine as well. So what's your series prediction before we wrap up here?
So, David, all playoff long, I haven't put out a prediction. And then Dono asked me a couple days ago what my prediction is. And I said, I'm not going to do a prediction because I don't want to mush it. So I won't do a prediction. However, I'll say both teams, I think, have an even chance of winning this series. It's coming down to who has the hotter goalie, and the keys that we mentioned earlier. Can the Panthers take advantage of the power play chances they're going to get? Can Vegas get past the brick wall of Bobrovsky, specifically early in this series? I'm not going to make a prediction, but it's going to be very close, and I'm going to say someone is going to win this in 6.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I think someone's going to win this in 6 too. So I'm just going to leave this right here. And I want to thank Alex, obviously, safe travels out to Vegas. So give the fans a little bit of insight on what you're going to be doing in terms of coverage for Game 1 and Game 2 out in Vegas before we wrap.
Well, I'm not going till tonight, so I won't be there for Media Day. But we will have media availability tomorrow with the Panthers and the Knights and the commissioner of the NHL before the game, as they do every big event. Gary Bettman will be there, so we'll have some content there. We're obviously going to do our game coverage that we do every single game, all postseason long. And we're going to do a couple, feature stories because we're going to be there for a while, whether that's just what's going on with the team or a specific player. We're going to have some good content coming out from Vegas, and then I'll be back here for games 3 and 4 in South Florida. So we'll have you covered all Stanley Cup Final long here at the network. We're probably going to do a couple more shows the same way our friends over in Denver with Ethan and Mateo are right now. We'll be doing that in Vegas, and then we're all coming back home at the exact same time for the Panthers and the Heat for games 3 and 4.
That's going to be great. I'm so excited to see the Panthers back in the Stanley Cup Finals for the first time since 1996. I was actually there back in the day. So hopefully some of our younger fans get to see this run. And I'm excited. I brought my son to his first game. We went to Game 3 versus the Hurricanes. So it's just an incredible time in South Florida sports. And hopefully we can bring home a couple trophies in the next few weeks. So I want to thank Alex for joining us and thank everybody for watching. And we'll have a lot more coverage throughout the weekend.